It's me. Hi. This week I'm going to talk about two things, and I might get off track once or twice. But I'm going to try to make the video short, and I'm going to try to be concise. The first thing I want to talk about is I'm going to buy a Kindle Fire. I can't resist it. I've got to have one in color, reading books on lucid dreaming. Blast it! I'm sorry. Leave me alone. No, the first thing I want to talk about, everybody stay calm, is an incident that occurred on CNN. CNN's supposed to talk about the news, but in today, with things like American Idol and Dancing with the Stars and all those reality shows, the news becomes the news. Instead of what's really happening, we just yell and scream about what the news people do. I wanted to talk about Romney's wife and women working. You see, we're running into a very unique situation where one party has absolutely refused to go with the will of the people because one man was elected president, and in the past, people have tried to support the president so he could do the things he said he was going to do. Now, here we have one party who has obstructed everything that the president wanted to do and voted against, no matter what it was. If he would have walked on water, they would still not have believed it until they had a chance to examine the films to see if they were photoshopped. Reality is we're running into what could become a civil war. The very idea that they voted and stopped him from doing everything, and in spite of that, he's managed to win the Nobel Peace Prize, and he's managed to kill off a bunch of the real enemies of this country, and lowered the inflation. He's just done all kinds of things. But as far as they're concerned, he has done nothing, and their only obsession in life is to get him out of office. Listen, I'm not a Republican. I'm really not a Democrat. I'm an independent. But let me tell you something, you nutso people who can't grasp what you're doing here. If you manage to win this election, which I cannot in my, logical, intellectual mind perceive happening with the candidates you brought forward, but if somehow some quirk of fate, like obstructing the ballots or I don't know what, you would win the election, I guarantee you that the Democrats, and I would hope they would do it, will stop you from anything you want to do. Now, the way we can avoid this, I think, is a civil war, and I hate to see that happen. But we're off subject, which isn't unusual for me. Romney's wife became very upset over a commentator that was on CNN. They had a Democrat and a Republican, and they were talking the issues of the economy and things. And this Democratic spokesman said, Mrs. Romney has never had a job in her life. And of course, everybody goes off and is dizzy, and suddenly the news is the news, and it's making news. And the lady is forced, even though we have freedom of speech, to apologize for what she said. Shame on her for apologizing. What she said was absolutely true. Raising your children is a responsibility given you by God. Being a stay-at-home mom deals with one thing. It deals with wealth. You see, at one point I worked with a bunch of women. In fact, at 2 points, not when I was in talk radio, but when I was teaching and when I drove a school bus, there were many women. And most of those women, I would say 95% of them, if they had the choice that Mrs. Romney talks about making to stay at home and raise their children, they would have done it in a flash, like a bolt of lightning. Yeah, to make that choice, you've got to be rich. There are far more women who are working that never were able to make that choice that would love to stay home and take care of their children. Damn you. People can't get it. There's wealth and there's being poor. And as you suck the money from the poor, then you have the audacity to say, why don't they make a choice and stay home and take care of their children? They would give their right arm to do that. They can't afford to do it. They have to work 1 or 2 jobs and hope that the children don't set the house on fire or something more terrible. So, for that lady to apologize is a travesty. It just shows you the separation between the rich and the poor. The other thing is, on that Zimmerman and Trayvon incident, you know, this video, I think I'm going to call it the Amazing Zimmerman. Because this man, not only does he suffer a concussion, not only does he have his nose broke, not only is he within an inch of death, he's able to walk in with no blood on his shirt, not weaving, no, perfectly okay, after gunning down a teenager with a gun that was armed with Skittles. Let me tell you, if you're beaten within an inch of your life, you're not walking around. The police are looking at him. They're not even wearing gloves. He should have been covered in blood. Well, there was a grass stain on his back. Yeah, when did he get the grass stain? Here, I want to demonstrate something. See this ball? Watch. See the ball started to flash? You know why the ball is flashing? Because it's an LED in it. And when it's for some forest, the light starts to flash. Hear it? Okay, let's picture Zimmerman who's screaming for help over and over. The tapes have been analyzed. 2 experts, 95% chance it's not Zimmerman that's screaming. Head, okay? That's Zimmerman's head. Now here is the grass, even though Zimmerman says it was the sidewalk, but the sidewalk was over here. See? So his head is being pounded on the grass, and he is screaming help, he says. Now, as the head comes down, repeatedly, each time it hits, like the ball, the brain is shaken. And the vocal cords are rearranged. I will demonstrate by holding my nose as I talk. Do you notice the difference in my voice when I hold the nose and when I don't? That's because I'm interfering with the passage of the nose. If your nose is broken while you're screaming, you're going to hear a difference. But even more important, each time the hit hit the pavement, the brain would have been jarred and the voice would have changed. Watch. Listen to the tape of a boy crying for help, repeatedly screaming, please help me. We all turned our backs then. I hope we do not turn our backs now, because the chances of that scream coming from that big frame of a man named Zimmerman, about as good as my chances of being elected president of the United States of America. Or this possum speaking with the voice of William Jennings Bryan rather than speaking to me through ESP. If you will excuse me.